says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you're lusting is the one you're loving?
When I was growing up, I was taught in American history books that Africa had no history, and neither did I. That I was a savage, about whom the less said, the better, who had been saved by Europe and brought to America. And of course, I believed it. I didn't have much choice. Those are the only books there were. Everyone else seemed to agree. If you walk out of Harlem, ride out of Harlem downtown, the world agrees. What you see is much bigger, cleaner, whiter, richer, safer than where you are. They collect the garbage. People obviously can pay their life insurance. The children look happy, safe. You're not. And you go back home. And it would seem then, of course, that it's an act of God, that this is true, that you belong where white people have put you. It is only since the Second World War that there's been a counter image in the world. And that image not come about through any legislation on the part of any American government, but through the fact that Africa was suddenly on the stage of the world, and Africans had to be dealt with in a way they'd never been dealt with before. This gave an American Negro for the first time a sense of himself beyond a savage or a clown. It has created and will create a great many conundrums. One of the great things that the white world does not know, but I think I do know, is that black people are just like everybody else. One has used the myth of Negro and the myth of color to pretend and to assume that you are dealing essentially with something exotic, bizarre, and practically, according to human laws, unknown. Alas, it is not true. We are also mercenaries, dictators, murderers, liars. We are human too. What is crucial here is that unless we can manage to establish some kind of dialogue between those people whom I pretend has paid for the American dream and those other people who have not achieved it, we will be in terrible trouble.
I want to sit in that for a second because I have a question for everyone. How big is your vision? How big is your vision for yourself? How far can you see yourself and the world around you? What do you see? I'm constantly reminded that too many of us don't see too many of us are myopic. Too many of us can only see what we can see every day. We can't imagine beyond what we experience. Too many of us are victims of our own lack of vision. And the word says, my people will perish for lack of vision. I want no one to perish. So I need you to think a little bigger. I had a conversation today. Y'all know I'm juggling many things. So I have a lot of meetings, which I absolutely hate. I hate meetings, but I know that they're necessary sometimes. And I think I also operate in my own headspace thinking that people just know how I think about things, or they know what to do. I don't have to tell people things, that I don't have to share with them what I'm thinking, but I absolutely do need to do that. So I have these meetings that I absolutely hate to have. And I realized today that I absolutely need to have these meetings. Why? Because if people are left to follow their own vision, we won't get very far. So I had to ask a couple of questions of my team today, right? I had to ask some questions. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to share, a little bit of what was talked about as, there was conversations about partnering with this and partnering with that. And yesterday we had an amazing conversation with Don Calloway and Omi Bell that spilled out over onto into Nubia and onto YouTube. We did an after show because we weren't finished talking. And it was in the same space, as we attempt to build something as if nothing has ever existed before. First of all, that's the first problem. When James Baldwin says, he didn't know that his people had a history because all he was taught was that, he comes from a savage race. If you go to school, if you went to school at any period of time, you would hear about Phyllis Wheatley talking about or writing about the first so-called Black poet in this country in the 1700s, writing about a dark continent that she came from as a child, as a baby, in the hold of a ship. How could she know how dark a continent it was when she came of age here and was literally paraded around the country and around the world as an anomaly, right? Someone literate, as if the people from whence she came didn't invent writing, because they did. Paper, papyrus, writing was invented by the very continent that she came from. People putting words into action. Amen-Ra. People writing. That was not a parlor trick. It was endemic. It was part of the DNA of the continent that we all come from. So I find it interesting and also disturbing at the same time that the erasure of history is so prevalent, and that there's such a movement. Shout out to those women that claim to be for liberty but are for bondage. Those mothers for liberty, they're for bondage, because it's only in your lack of knowledge that you stay enslaved, right? So they're not for liberty at all. They're mothers for bondage. They need to change their name. And anybody that is, calling for this book or that book to be removed from a library, any governor like Suckerby Sanders in Arkansas who wants to criminalize librarians having books available because she deems them as inappropriate. Not that these children, if you feed them the right things, can come to their own conclusions about what is right and wrong. And how about you raise your children? How about you open the doors so that they can have conversations with you, so they can develop into full human beings? You can't shield them from this world. They have access to the internet. Unless you're, going to have one of them Koresh type communities, which are very prevalent coming up. But I was thinking about today, because I'm like, partnerships are good with, quote unquote mainstream entities, but why? Can't we build our own? I'm being patient. I put together a 10-year plan. Like, I'm willing to sit in this for 10 years until we can develop something, because I remember a time when there was no, I remember when Twitter came. I remember it like it was yesterday when Twitter was a thing, because I was at Hunter College, and I remember, making it part of, my assignments, to have my students develop, Twitter pages I was teaching a publishing class at the time, and to promote books, and, we were playing around with that and Facebook. And I remember, because it's within in the last 2 decades, that there wasn't one before then. And there've been things that have been here and not here. The Vine is not here, and MySpace is not here. Black Planet is here, but not the same that it was before. There have been so many things that were huge. Blockbuster was huge. It was huge. And now it's gone, because technology and vision and somebody with an idea kick the can forward, because that's what we do as human beings. We don't stay dragging our knuckles and dragging people by the hair. We evolve, right? We should evolve. We should grow. We should grow. I want us to grow. But to grow, you got to see. You got to see a thing to be a thing. So representation matters, exposing yourself to different things, traveling, seeing that the world is tiny at the same time vast, that we all are very similar. I learned that at 18, spending the summer in Bermuda. My roommate's parents, her dad owned a store called Roosters. My dad owned a Hunter Corner store in Newark. They were very similar men. Her mom was a school teacher, brilliant woman. My mom was brilliant as well. And we had the same mom, same dad. She's in a whole other country. She's drinking Kool-Aid, but she added ginger beer to her Kool-Aid. In East Orange, we had Kool-Aid. They went bowling. I was in a bowling league in East Orange. She was bowling. We went bowling. And I'm like, I'm on this tropical island. I'm not going to the beach. I'm hanging out playing cards and going bowling. I could do that in Jersey. But you know what? The same people. People are people. So why should it be you and I should get along so awfully? Why? So I was thinking about this today. First of all, lack of vision. We need to see bigger. We need to see ourselves, whatever it is that you want to do 10 years from now, 50 years from now. If you haven't sat down and mapped out the next 50 years, even if you don't plan on being here in terms of what you want to see happen, but that starts today with the seeds being planted, the foundation being poured, the stones being put into place. That starts today. Whatever it is you want to see or be. We give up too quickly. We sell out so easily because we're not used to sitting in something long enough for it to take hold. And even stocks, I look at Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. People call them brilliant. No, they're patient and they're damn near 100 years old. So they've lived long enough to watch the thing that people always say, you know, you just stay in something long enough. And more importantly, they built something 60 years ago that is now worth 1 billion times more than what it was worth 60 years ago. And Warren Buffett still lives in Nebraska in the same house that he's raised his children in. He didn't feel the need to go out and do anything more, but that's a man that has what you call, patience, which many of us do not. And I get it. Poverty alters your brain. Lack, a sense of lack. And this is what I want to also say. Just because you don't have doesn't mean you're not abundant. If you only reason why you are in lack is because you see yourself in lack. Lack is a temporary condition. It's not your permanent position. It is temporary, light and momentary. And it is until you decide that this is not who I am, which is why when you call up and you ask me how you doing, I'm awesome. I am awesome. I am abundant. I will say all of those things out of my mouth because that is exactly what I would, no matter what is going on in my day. And let me tell you, I have bad days. I have days when things do not go the way I want them to. And I try to talk myself. I talk myself into what is the lesson here? Or these things are just forcing me. Like today, something forced me into doing something that I wouldn't have done unless the people didn't push me to do it. And now other things are growing as a result. I make calls that I wouldn't have made. Complacency is death. Being okay and comfortable in your lack is death.
Yeah. I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you're lusting is the one?